In 1970, the deadliest storm in human history smashed into the coast of what is now Bangladesh. It killed 500,000 people in just the course of a few hours, and that was only the beginning. This cataclysmic hurricane flipped an election and then sparked a genocide, started a civil war, and just 12 months later almost put the USA and USSR onto the brink of nuclear Armageddon. This isn't just the story of a close call from long ago. A future framed by global warming means that the real danger of climate change isn't just more fires and storms, but the real possibility of World War III. The world today is fragile. Our economies are integrated. Everything from oil and computer chips to bananas and clothing pass multiple international borders before they get to where they need to go. A single disturbance in these supply lines, like a ship going sideways in the Suez Canal, can grind the world economy to a halt. And it's not just in the stuff that we buy. We've all seen how recent events, like the invasion of Ukraine, can trigger mutual defense alliances that then escalate all the way up to the threat of nuclear war. In short, everything is interconnected. This is why the 1970 Great Bola cyclone was so relevant right now. It was the watershed moment that showed how one disturbance in the global order can bring everything crashing down. Just like climate change, this story is pretty complex, but I promise that you need to know about it. Here's what happened. After the cyclone's 20-foot storm surge wiped out entire islands in the Bay of Bengal, Yahya Khan, then president of Pakistan, didn't lift a finger to help the hundreds of thousands of survivors. Why? Well, Pakistan was a divided country, with Bengalis in the east and Punjabis and other groups in the west. And Yahya hated the Bengalis. And it just so happened that this massive cyclone hit just 3 weeks before Pakistan's first free and fair election. Yahya saw this disaster as a God-sent opportunity to suppress the vote. But his plan didn't work. Yahya's relief effort was so bad that everything went against him all at once. The Bengalis won the election in a landslide. It was about the equivalent of the Democrats in America getting 70% of the vote. They had enough political power after this to run the entire country. So Yahya freaked out. He blamed the fake news media for manufacturing this false election. And then he decided to overturn the results himself by force. In his own words, he said, "If I just kill 3 million of them, the rest will eat out of my hands." And just when you thought this story couldn't get any worse, it takes a diabolical turn. Because you see, Yahya Khan was President Richard Nixon's best friend. At the time of the storm, Yahya Khan was busy helping Nixon secure relations with China. He even flew Nixon's right-hand man, Henry Kissinger, to China on a super top-secret mission in his own private plane. In return, Nixon sent ships and planes full of guns, which Yahya Khan then used to massacre up to 3 million people over the course of the next 6 months.
Good evening. A civil war has broken out between the two halves of Pakistan, a country separated by 1,000 miles of Indian territory, in a move by the British a quarter of a century ago to provide separate homelands for the Muslim Pakistanis and the Hindu Indians.
Yahya's pogrom was a genocide, one of the 20th century's worst and yet least well known. What Yahya didn't count on was that the Bengalis would fight back. India funded a resistance of guerrilla fighters and trained them in modern warfare. And since India and the USSR were allies, this triggered the Cold War logic of mutual defense treaties that brought the bigger players into the war. The Americans sent a supercarrier into the Bay of Bengal, and the Soviets responded by sending in a submarine attack fleet. Both had orders to fire their nuclear weapons at each other, or perhaps to India or Pakistan if they had to. In fact, they almost did. Henry Kissinger told Nixon that they should, quote, start lobbing nukes. America was ready to obliterate the world, all to protect a place on the map that the president probably couldn't have found on a map a year before. And then the world got impossibly lucky, because the very day these two fleets were about to nuke each other, the capital city of Dhaka fell to the rebels. They defeated the Pakistanis and liberated the country that is now Bangladesh. And just like that, the war was over. The fleets turned around, and the world breathed a sigh of relief. And these are the broad strokes of the story that I tell in my brand new book, The Vortex. And you need to go buy it right now because as I make this video, very similar things are brewing in Ukraine. Networks of global alliances are coming together, and it could mean global destruction if those rebels cannot see this conflict through to the end. And even if Ukraine goes well, and I really, really hope that it does, we need to be ever vigilant of the possibility that storms caused by climate change can trigger conflicts just like this all over the world in our future. Now that you know what the Vortex is about, I really need you to read how Jason Miklian and I tell the story. We wanted to tell the story of climate change like a non-fiction action thriller. We follow the stories of a fisherman turned revolutionary, 2 genocidal presidents, and a soccer star turned mutineer. Also, there's Candy Rhodey, who's a feminist icon who ended up leading the largest civilian aid effort in history. It reads like a novel, sort of like Laura Hillenbrand's Unbroken, but we have sources for absolutely everything that we write. I'd love you to order a copy right now, and there's a link right there in the description. And please, please, please share this video, like and subscribe, and tell the world about what is probably one of the most important events that we really don't know or talk about. I post videos twice a week, and you won't believe what I have coming up next.